Oh, wow. Knees together. Hey, Internet. I'm Chaz.
And I'm Dan. Welcome to Wine is Serious Business, episode 261. This week we determine whether my teeth are white and gold or black and blue.
What does that mean?
Wow, okay. You haven't been on the internet in the last couple days?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Wow, I don't think I've ever caught Chaz out on something like that before.
Yeah, I'm usually good at the internet. So.
We'll explain it later. Big meme stuff. We got back to Oregon Pinot Noir today. Thanks for watching the interviews we've had up lately. We hope you enjoyed them.
Yeah, we hope you made it through all of them. We kind of took a little break from doing our typical thing, really focusing on Oregon. We got last of our Germany interviews up.
Yeah.
And got to hang out with our friend Evald.
So thanks for the comment, Joe Swick. But as he said, that is the last of our visits from Germany. So our next interview isn't really on the books yet, but it'll be somebody from Oregon. We've got some ideas, but none of them are solidified yet. But thanks for asking. We've got an interesting show lined up today. 3 wines from across the world, very different Pinot Noirs. Chaz had this idea for a while to do a view from the cellar.
Yeah, so this actually happened from when we did the show with Vic Petrov.
Mm-hmm.
We got to drink 2005, 2006, and 2007 Freedom Hill Pinot Noir from Lang, and it was awesome to see the differences in Oregon wine. And so what I thought was, hey, we could pull out some 07s from our cellar and just see how they were doing, because 07 was kind of a wild vintage across the board for a lot of the world. And I had an 07 that we had been gifted by our friend Mark.
He finally getting around to this.
Yeah, we're finally getting around to drinking this wine. And then this wine in particular I bought a while back and was very interested in. So
have you tasted it before?
Have not.
Okay.
No, this is the first time.
What inspired you to get it?
So I actually got it on a discount list.
Oh,
it was one of those things where
nice.
we get email blasts every once in a while from our friends that say like, hey, we've got all these wines and we're trying to just move them out for the next vintage.
Yeah.
Different distributors trying to move inventory, and this was one of those wines. So I picked up a bunch on deep discount, but they're a decently well regarded wine.
Sure.
Regardless, and then the last wine, this was actually gifted to us by our friend in Germany. What's his name?
Chris. Goes by Fustrauss on Facebook. Writes the Weinzeit blog. Weinzeit. Yeah. I guess I've talked about him from time to time, but a cool blog. If you want to see what a German thinks about the Oregon Pinot Noirs he can find over there, follow it. Yeah, follow the blog.
I follow it now, and it's really cool to see the stuff that he finds over in Germany. Right?
Yeah.
I really dig that. So.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like advanced German language. It's way over my head, but Google Translate does a good enough job.
It does.
That if you don't speak a word of German, you can still enjoy the reviews, and it's really fun to see what he finds. Anyway, he gifted this to us as a trade for some Oregon Pinot we brought to him. And we're super excited to check it out because we haven't had a lot of German Pinot Noir, and it's really great to hear recommendations.
I agree. So the first one we're going to start out with is the Crowley Entre, Nous. This is the 2007 Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. This was gifted to us by our friend Mark Loader. Really nice guy that we know down from the wine storage, big wine geek. He kicked us this bottle years ago at this point, 3-4 years ago, saying, you've got to try this out. This producer's make killer wine. Since then, we've had really good Crowley wines.
Man.
Crowley is someone that we respect quite well as far as making good Oregon Pinot Noir, but really great Oregon Chardonnay.
It's true.
So,
he was new to us at the time, but I really consider him to be in the top 3 Oregon Chardonnay producers right now.
Yeah,
I think it's fantastic stuff, and his Pinot Noirs are also consistently good, and he's one of those guys that puts a lot of love and care into his Willamette Valley bottlings. I think they always bring value year after year, too.
Right, totally. So, all right, so let's check it out.
Man, and I could kind of smell it even as it was being poured, but the nose on this is really in a great spot.
I mean, it smells like it's got some whole stem, whole stem, or what do they call it? Whole cluster?
Yeah.
Whole cluster fermentation. There we go, yeah. It's been a long day. Somewhat floral. It's bringing a lot of stemmy notes and a lot of reminds me of roses and cherry fruit.
A little bit of cloves, great cherry fruit. I think a good sense of depth to it, like full cherry skins, nice and ripe, not overripe at all.
Yeah, I can see the clove thing. It's almost like a hint of tobacco almost.
A little bit,
It's dark,
a little bit of spice, yeah.
Yeah, spice. I wouldn't go so much tobacco, but yeah, it smells really good.
Has a good, just kind of delicate feel to it. Yeah, very enjoyable Pinot Noir nose. Yeah.
So one thing about the vintage, I was going to talk about each vintage as we kind of went along. 2007 was kind of a wild vintage for Oregon. Like we had 2006, which was a really hot year. 2007 was a kind of like almost two different vintages. We had kind of the people that picked before the rains had there was rain that happened in September, early September, mid September, and so people got really worried. Some people picked before the rains, and some people picked after the rains, and so the wines were very different based on that. I can't talk to when this wine was picked.
I certainly don't know either. Yeah,
that'd be something for Mr. Crowley himself to point out, but yeah. That's really all I have to say. So,
yeah, but right, like kind of polarizing wines, but so many of them have come around in the last few years. So
it's true. Early on, when I remember I bought a lot of 2006 because that was the first vintage that I really kind of latched onto. 2007, the wines were very austere, very high acid, almost like kind of gritty tannins, and not a lot of fruit early on. And so there was a lot of wines where I really was kind of like, oh man, what happened to Oregon in 2007? But in the last few years, and I'm sure you've heard us say this multiple times if you've been watching the show, we're really blown away by
it's almost cliche. As cliche as it was to hate on 2007 when they came out, like it's just that cliche to talk about how good it is now. I haven't heard somebody honestly speak badly or like sincerely speak badly about 2007 in 6 years or something like that. It's been a long time.
Wow, this drinks really well.
This is super nice, man. Yeah, the cherry fruit is just great on it. This is a great example of like everything being like light and delicate, but still plenty of flavor, like a sense of richness without being heavy. Great. Man, this is great. Yeah, the cherries and the spice are intact. Yeah.
Yeah, there's really nice cherry fruit, like maybe even a hint of like slightly overripe strawberry as you lead into the finish. There's this hint of like richness or savoriness as the wine is swallowed, right? And a good amount of acid backing that up, which really kind of puts it in this like weird place in your mid palate or mid palate and finish, which I really enjoy. It's almost like the kind of sweet and sour thing that you enjoy in some foods. But this isn't that. It's almost like a savory, acidic thing. It's really good. So tannins are on the lighter side. I mean, they're there. They could probably have a little bit of grip in the cheeks, but totally gentle and just soft edged and super easy to drink right now.
Yeah, he's really got it together there. I was getting a little nervous. It started out so great, and on the back end, I'm like, oh, maybe the fruit's like falling apart. Is this getting tough? But it never gets too tough. And the description of it as kind of savory is dead on because that spice is still there.
Yeah.
The acidity's keeping things dry. There's just a little bit of the fruit left, but that's a pretty cool transition, I think, and it still retains kind of this like sense of elegance. Like there's really good balance always.
I totally agree. The fruit flavors, while rather straightforward, there's good depth to them. Mm-hmm. You really kind of think about the wine quite a bit while you drink it, and just it's drinking so well right now. Easily a 90-point wine for me.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's. I think this was like a $25 to $27 wine on release. This release might be a little more expensive now. It might be closer to $30. But
his prices have gone up, but that's one of those people that like who can complain? Like they still deliver value, right? I am also 90 points on this. That this hits it right on for me, man. There's a lot of great things going on, and I'd say if you've got a bottle, enjoy it. It's in a good spot right now.
Totally worth checking in on. So, little rinse here. This was our step into Burgundy. So I've had some wines from this producer before, Pierre Guillemot. Right, I know you don't pronounce the T. I know that enough about French pronunciation, right? Like. If it's a hard syllable on the end, you don't pronounce it. But the two L's is what getting me here. So it's Guillemot or Guillemot. I don't know. So
Bo, help us out.
Wow. But the name, right? Savigny Le Jarrons.
I think that's Savigny and then
Savigny Le Jarrons. There we go. Got it. So this is the 2007 Premier Cru Burgundy. So Burgundy for 2007. Very early flowering, early summer, but then like June, July was kind of a colder period, but then it had a very nice autumn. But looking at some vintage charts and looking at like the overall breadth for like 2005 to 2010, a lot of people consider 2007 to be kind of one of the lower vintages of that spread.
It's interesting. And for those of you who aren't from Oregon and don't know this, one of the great things about the Willamette Valley in comparison to like other Pinot Noir growing parts of the world is that our summers are dry. You'll never hear, well, I shouldn't say never, but I've never heard of a vintage in Oregon being hailed out while the fruit was on the vine or anything like that. Because we get into our summers, and they're like long, dry, pretty fair weather relatively. Yeah. We don't have to deal with like tons of rain and stuff like that through the ripening season. That always starts at the end of harvest, at the beginning of harvest. Yeah.
But that does happen in France and Germany, right? They talk about like big hailstorms that come through and decimate entire vineyards or really do lots of damage, and that's something we don't do.
Yeah, or
here.
they have thunderstorms for a month straight or something like that, and it's nice. Mild summer.
Interesting nose.
A little more overripe fruit here. I'm definitely getting like a little bit of funk again. Like the overripe strawberries are showing more here. Maybe a little bit of plum, like super ripe plum. The fruit's a little darker than on this one, I think.
Agreed. You know that sort of what are those like medicinal cherry lozenges that you take when you've got coughs, like or when you've got when you've got a cold.
Sure.
Coughs. Oh my god. But it sort of smells like a bag of that, right? It's somewhat candy, somewhat like mentholy cherry fruit.
You get a little meaty here too, like a little bit of beef pot roast or something like that.
I can see that.
Little savory notes.
Yeah, savory, but like really the overripe cherries are kind of a predominant flavor in the nose.
Yeah.
Huh.
Real soft on contact, and I think the cherry flavors don't taste so overripe on the palate.
No.
I think I get a really nice kind of growing intensity of like light and bright cherries right away.
Yeah, they're definitely fresher than than the nose would lead it to, but predominantly, that's basically what they are the whole time. Like there's not a lot of other flavors going on in the palate for me. Like it's just ripe cherry fruit, ripe fresh cherry fruit, leading into like maybe like a red tea hibiscus sort of thing.
Little tannins like tea. Yeah, like gentle. Yeah.
As it finishes, there's good enough acid in the finish, although it's kind of underlying to the fruit. The tannins definitely grip stronger as it's swallowed, but yeah.
I'm really digging it. The acidity here, I think, is really striking me on the front of my tongue, which is kind of unusual. A lot of times I feel the acidity more like in my gums or in the cheeks or like the back of the palate. But this acidity hits in the front and kind of really evolves across the palate, kind of really keeping things fresh, keeping the fruit light and bright. And definitely, it's definitely not like simplistic. Like it is.
No.
There's not a whole lot of different things going on, but what's there is enjoyable and has a little bit of evolution to it. And I think it lasts pretty long too.
That's true. And there's decent enough depth to the flavor here. I mean, like it's actually it's a very delicious wine. This is, I think, around $32 retail.
Wow.
I picked them up for around $20, and that was why I jumped on a whole bunch of them. So, but at that price point, still very good.
Fantastic. I mean, and especially for Burgundy, which I generally like. I'm not that educated with it, but I generally don't consider it to be a very good value. This is a fantastic example of where you can get good wine for your money, even at $30. I feel like this really delivers.
I think the fruit on this wine is more how do I say this? Like this isn't in the most crowd pleasing style, right? Like the acid is a little strong. As you take more sips, like the acid is definitely overlying the fruit. Now that I'm tasting it more, there's more tannins, and the fruit is very straightforward. Like it's not round and big.
That's true. It's Burgundy for lovers of Oregon Pinot Noir, right? Like this definitely isn't one of the darker, more muscular, Burgundies that and I don't know my villages or vineyards hardly at all, but
I don't.
I hear people talk about them being a little bigger and darker, and this isn't one of those.
Right.
And this isn't a California Pinot Noir.
Not at all.
And I think some people would say like, oh yeah, it's too tart and boring, and like the grapes probably weren't even ripe, blah blah blah. But this is good Pinot Noir for me.
I would agree.
At least I'm into it. This is another 90 points for me.
Nice.
While the flavors are still pretty straightforward, the evolution of them along with the acidity is what takes it up that notch for me. And I think it's a good example of value that can be had from red Burgundy, believe it or not.
I would say 89 points for me as well, or close to 90 points. Like this is a very good wine. I think a little more time in bottle will do this wine well. Still,
I can see that
structurally, it's still got a lot there. There's obviously a great intensity of fruit, so Yeah, 89 plus for me.
Right.
Good wine. So
rinsing with wine number 3.
Talk about our last wine.
Yeah, so Sankt Spätburgunder. So
well, it's that's the
vineyard, right?
It's the vineyard. So it's the producer is Weingut.
Friedrich Becker would be my guess.
Yeah.
It's probably a little better than our French pronunciation, I hope.
So it's a falls producer.
Yeah.
I think it says monopole on the back of this, so it's probably a vineyard.
I didn't know that.
Monopole.
Very cool. I don't know how common that is even, but very very excited to try. I didn't know anything about this producer. I've never seen or heard of this wine before until Chris handed it to me. So super excited.
Yeah, I'm always more excited to check out more stuff from Germany, especially Pinot Noir from cold climates. So this was rather exciting. It was impossible for me to find a vintage description for Pinot Noir in Germany. Really kind of searched it out, like, oh, Pinot Noir in Germany, no one talks about it, right? But it was sort of a typical German summer as far as like being kind of a cold, cloudy summer. But there was really good autumn weather, kind of a long picking time, right? Okay. Long dry picking time. And
that's good for Pinot Noir, right? Because it's especially compared to the Riesling and other things, it's a little later. Well,
although it did say there was some rain in the falls during the autumn time, which this is where that's from. So
okay, cool.
All right,
here we go. I would guess this was Oregon.
I know.
If you blinded me on it, I would totally guess this was Oregon. And I don't think I've said that about a Pinot Noir from anywhere else.
No. I opened all of these pre-tasting them just to make sure they weren't corked before Dan showed up, and I was like, oh my god, this smells like warm weather Dundee Pinot Noir.
This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Where it smells and it's just. It's got that funkiness to it, that sort of
a little bit of that like wet forest floor kind of,
a little bit,
or like dry, or like wood on the forest floor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
A little bit of cherry fruits. Again, we've been saying that a lot, but that's what they're. Yes, totally.
But it's like a strawberry patch. I mean, just like ripe, ready to be picked strawberry fruit. Super bright. You can almost. It's terrible to say, but I can almost smell the red dirt. Like
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I see myself like it sort of reminds me of Dundee Pinot Noir.
Yeah, a little bit of funk. There's a little beef jerky thing kind of going on that I'd say maybe I don't see so much in Oregon, but man, I wish I had more of these because it would be a riot to blind people out here on it.
Oh yeah,
and especially just like what AVA is this from? What Oregon AVA is this from? And I think this is fascinating.
A little bit of red tea underlying all of that ripe strawberry fruit. I mean, there's definitely something that's not just fruity characteristics, but man, this just smells awesome. So
definitely bigger on the palate than the previous two. There's definitely like a sense of richness, but boy, is it soft on the palate too. It really has kind of like that velvety flow right from contact all the way across.
Gosh.
Big feeling of richness. And you can tell that I feel like the fruit's riper in this one than in these previous two, but it's not over the top at all.
Bright strawberries, cherries. There's something underlying that though. It's almost like a herbal quality or something like green, in a good way though. It's like it's I don't know. I have to taste it a couple more times.
Yeah. Yeah, the strawberries are really sing here. It's just like a full smashed a bit of strawberries. On the finish, are you getting that little herbal touch? Or?
Yeah, it's almost like blueberries or something. Okay. This is a wild wine. Like there's definitely that ripeness and the forward cherry and strawberry fruit, but there's something else, man. At least for me, providing like the way the acid kind of rises up in the finish. Mm-hmm. There's just something else there. It's almost like a blue fruit character or some sort of like. I don't know. It's
just a little bit of complexity, and I think it's interesting. Yeah. I think it is really interesting how like all of those structural elements, all of the savory elements do rise up through the richer fruit, kind of dry things out late on the finish. A little bit of earthy flavors on the finish. You know, the acidity's still there, keeps things light and clean. Not so much fruit on the finish, just a ghost of like these ripe strawberries. I'm totally banning the cherries. You're right. This is like really ripe strawberries all the way through. Man.
So as the wine finishes, like there's a strong, like the acid really rises up in the finish, and there is sort of an herbal characteristic to it. It's almost like parsley or something. Like it's there, and it kind of closes out the fruit flavors as you swallow it, and then kind of fades away with them. A very complex wine. Structurally, tannins are really, really soft, really round edge, really like barely in the cheeks. Great acid though on this. I like the way the acid is interacting with the fruit a lot, and super fun to drink.
They even print the alcohol. They do 13.5. I would have guessed a little more. Not that I can taste it, but just in the
fullness.
The fullness of it. So
the feel and the fullness of the wine.
Impressive then that it's got that sense of weight without it being from super ripe fruit or super high alcohol. Man, I wonder, Chris, I'm sure you'll see this. Please let us know if this is typical for their production or if this is like an exceptional outlier. And I'm
no idea what the price point is on this.
Yeah,
Cellar Tracker was like.
I'm guessing
Cellar Tracker said $100.
I would not be surprised at all.
But a lot of times when it comes to euros and stuff, people put in like odd numbers, or someone buys it with like some other. I've seen all kinds of stuff when it comes to like very obscure European wines, so I don't know.
But I'm so happy that it made the journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is fantastic.
Everything's intact. This is tasting so good. I'm sure it's not cheap, but I'm also like I guess I'm this shy of saying like this is definitely the best German Pinot Noir I've ever had.
This is the best German Pinot Noir I've ever
it's
had.
really in the running for me, and I think I've had a couple that might be close, but I'm not even sure of that. So if those of you in Germany get the chance to check this out, I highly encourage you to do it. I don't know if any of it ever comes to the States. If you couldn't find much on Cellar Tracker, the odds are pretty slim, I think.
Yeah.
But thanks, man. This
Chris, thanks for hooking us up. So, we didn't score it. I would put it like 92 points. 91 plus 92.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Boy, it's
wow.
Yeah, good spot. Changing the game in my mind for German Pinot Noir too. Is that a false thing?
I've been trying to buy more German Pinot Noir.
Cool.
I'm seeking it out.
Aval's got another good. It's got a black label. I didn't pick it up from him yet, but I'm going to get another. We'll have another one on the show before too long, I'm sure.
All right.
Looking forward to that. We got to come up with a question of the day.
Well, before we get into the question of the day.
Promotion.
We got a whole bunch of new Facebook followers just recently doing some Facebook stuff.
Facebook gave us some free ad money, so we used it to promote. Not all of it even. We used a good chunk of it to promote the show.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you who have no idea who we are, but clicked on that ad and are maybe watching the first show. We really appreciate that. Hope you enjoy what we're talking about.
Yep. And if you're viewing us through YouTube, or if you're viewing us through Facebook. If you find us on YouTube or can go to us on YouTube, really smash the thumbs up button that they have on YouTube, because that helps our videos kind of get bumped up or more accessible in views when it comes to wine. And same thing for the YouTube viewers. If you could move over to Facebook and just throw us a like, really appreciate it.
It's good, right? That's how stuff gets distributed throughout Facebook. Yeah. That's how
helps us all see the show.
Yeah, so. People know what we're doing.
Really appreciate you guys watching the show. It keeps us doing it. I have a feeling we're just going to keep doing this forever, regardless if anybody watches it. But thank you guys for watching us. So.
Yeah, it's been great. Question of the day: our French pronunciation is embarrassingly bad. Which language do you wish you were fluent in?
Ooh. Spanish for me.
Nice, and I'm still working on German, so I guess that's my first choice. But there's many more to come.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll see us get better with French pronunciation as the show progresses. Thanks for watching.
See you guys later.